And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Corey, coming to you live from Iowa. I'm joined as always by Aaron Castro in Arizona and Liam Madigan-Freed over in Texas. We got Josh Fredland over in the moderator role, hanging out in the comments, so be sure to hit him up with any of your thoughts or abuse during the show. Guys, how are you? How was your week?
Okay, so we finally found a place to live because we, as mentioned a week or two, I don't know, that we're moving. Sucks, sucks to suck. Moving sucks, as Liam will attest, and as you will attest to, Corey. But it's near where the birds frolic, the spring bats of spring baseball crack against the ball in the air. So, yeah.
That sounded like an attempt to be poetic, but you just gave up.
Yeah, like halfway through.
Yeah, right.
The crack of the bats as they hit the ball over the left field line. There we go. Done. Better.
Well, see, you started out with birds, and then you said bats, and I'm thinking, the flying rat things.
Yeah, right.
Oh, golly.
Dude,
anyway, Liam, hey, what's going on, man?
It's going pretty good, and like Aaron said, moving sucks, but I've been in my new apartment now for about a week, and it's a whole lot of stress off my shoulders. This past weekend, the Houston SaberCats were on a bye, but that doesn't mean I wasn't busy. I got to go up to Dallas with Paul Emmerich and the West Houston Lions, and I saw them take on the Dallas Reds. Unfortunately, it was a pretty tough loss, 71-26. But I got to see some of the, I know, right? But luckily,
it's Darren Morris, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Darren Morris. So
yeah, no, exactly. But but what was great though was a lot of SaberCat Academy players, as well as Joe Kelly and Matt Almeida were featured on the roster, as well as Kieran Farmer at fullback. So they all got some pretty valuable minutes on the bye week. Despite the tough loss.
No, get out there and get the work done. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm happy to say that my wife and I and both our dogs survived the polar vortex. So,
thank God your dogs are okay.
Yeah, right.
You didn't have to eat them? You didn't have to
eat them. They didn't become popsicles out in the backyard. It was fine. I think the lowest temperature I saw in town here was -24, which was pretty damn impressive, if you ask me.
You got the bread and milk, though.
We did. I fought off an old woman. I actually beat her skull in to get that last loaf of bread.
Jesus, man.
You might want
to find a safe house or a close relative because you're probably wanted for murder.
Just killed a man with a trident. All right. So, on that note, for those of you new to the podcast, we don't always quote excellent movies from 15 years ago, but sometimes we do.
Jesus,
and when we're not, we are talking about Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union. It gives us a chance to check out the issues, talk about game recaps, hear from the league, its players, coaching staff, and just kind of check in with our friends from across the country and the U.S. rugby scene. So, with all that said, Aaron, I think you want to fill us in on what we got coming up this episode.
All right, we're going to head down back to memory lane of, a couple days ago. And Utah picked up a win against Austin at Del Diamond. NOLA beat Glendale. Man, that was a good game. And then San Diego Legion defeated the Hurricane and the Seawolves in San Diego. The USA Eagles romp Los Condores de Chile Rugby or something. I don't know. Union del, whatever.
Victor, we need help, man.
We will cover Uruguay versus Canada in a small portion after we sort of cover the Eagles, and then we'll get into next week's picks. We all were really bad this week on our picks, by the way. So
I'm the only one who got any right.
No, I got one right. I got NOLA right. So
you got NOLA? Oh, damn.
We're both 1 and 2 for this week. Corey is 0 and 3.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm killing it.
Yeah. Well, all right, we'll get to that though. I'll gloat a little later about my overall record.
Yes.
So Aaron, what you're telling us is there is some rugby played this weekend or something?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let's get into that.
All right. Well, like you said, Utah picked up a road win this weekend, their first game of the season. They played Austin in Austin. And this is after they didn't have much of a preseason, so we really weren't sure what we were looking at. But first game, the Warriors come in, and, well, they did pretty well. They beat Austin Elite by 17-9. And I would say, personally, I don't think either of these teams looked like top performers in the league necessarily, but it was still, not a bad match. And this puts Austin at 0-2 on the season, so that's not great. I don't know. Aaron, what'd you see out there?
I don't know. I give everyone stick, so I'm not. I guess I'm not foreign to hot takes, but I would say Austin has been in the two lowest quality games of the season so far. The first one against the SaberCats and the second one against Utah. The reffing in this, whether it was the center ref or the ARs, Austin would have got a bonus point loss here if they called the clearly made penalty from Timothy Guillemon, but they for some reason waved it off.
Okay, so wait, I wasn't crazy in thinking that was a made freaking penalty kick. Nobody's talking about this, I feel like.
Brian Ray was. So somebody was talking about it.
What's all that about?
So that caused some. So shout out to the AER supporters group. They're a small but mighty group on the Facebook that started a couple weeks ago, and they were very perturbed about that. So back to the game, I'm really surprised at what Utah did specifically because their preseason was, 2 scrimmages. The first one was kind of known to their season ticket holder and their fan base against Life West, which was indoors at the RSL Academy, and they sort of played a secret scrimmage against Utah Valley University that we sort of know less about. And then, I know what Austin's trying to do on the attack, but they really need to settle in on their scrum half, fly half pairing. Marcelo Torrealba, he's a good fly half. Michael Romero, he's a good fly half. But you just, I guess the battle of the hinge was discussed in this game. And I guess the battle of the hinge really isn't the battle between, on defense between two. I don't know. It made no sense. But just getting your hinge pairing right, and making sure the chemistry is good is important, and I don't think they had that in this game, and it really hurt their tempo. You still see what they're trying to do, put the ball in play with their feet and gain territory that way, and play a fast game. It's just they did not play well. It just sucked. Hey, Utah fixed their lineouts. Welcome, coach's son, Logan Daniels, to the 4 at hooker. He was, I think their lineout accuracy last year was like 55%, and he only missed this one. So, quality of play, we've got a long way to go. James Semple, the fly half player coach for Utah, came off at the half and really wasn't, overall that effective, at least from my foxhole. Liam's going to talk about Ian Luciano. I think Ian Luciano is, I wouldn't say a huge improvement. He's definitely a different style. I think scrum half was one of the few positions they were competent at last year. And that's really why my opinion is, maybe it's not that huge of an upgrade because I thought they were okay there. So.
Well, you know my opinion on that subject matter. I think Luciano coming into this squad was actually a much bigger improvement than you might say. I wasn't really impressed with Nichols' play all of last year. I thought he was a really slow scrum half in a lot of respects, and I felt like he kind of ran the offense in a very bland manner. whereas Luciano was coming in with a much more fastball style of play. Coach Smitty over in Boston definitely instilled at him, as well as up at New England College, where they tend to run a very, very fast tempo. Believe me, I've seen those guys play. But overall, a lot of the good quality rugby that we saw in this game, or the lack thereof, it took place in the first half. I saw Utah was coming out with the intent to make a statement, and I thought in terms of the ball in hand, they were much more efficient through the phases than Austin ever was. Austin's their biggest problem, as it continues to be, is shooting themselves in the foot. Particularly with knock-ons and just not retaining possession. Utah definitely wasn't perfect. This is obviously a team that is is still rusty going into their first game, but they were able to show, a greater degree of chemistry from last year, and that carried in when they were able to operate, at least in that first half, enough to get those 14 points. However, the second half, everybody just seemed to fall off on both sides, and I'm not sure whether or not that's a matter of conditioning or a matter of adjusting schemes against one another in this during halftime. But like you said, I think both these teams are going to need a lot of work to be done in order to finish games, to stay competitive in the league this year, because especially after the improvements we've seen with NOLA and Houston, there's not going to be a whole lot of bottom-of-the-barrel teams that they're going to be able to beat up on. These teams might find themselves in that bottom-of-the-barrel position, just trying to beat up on each other. So I'd really be interested to see how their next matchup this season goes as compared to this one.
Fair enough. Aaron, you have any final thoughts?
No, I think both teams really have a long way to go in what they need to do. On to the next one.
On to the next. Well, how about them NOLA Gold, guys? We got they are at the top of the list right now. 2 wins in a row, 2 bonus points in a row. Can't beat that.
Nope.
Yeah. NOLA Gold down last year's runners-up, Glendale Raptors, 40-31 in New Orleans. I have to wonder if it's possible that Glendale took a little bit bigger hit than maybe some of the other teams with the ARC window coming up. I'm not sure. Or maybe NOLA's just figured out some sort of formula that works for them. Either way, the Gold brought the win down to New Orleans, which I got to think maybe helped soothe a couple Saints fans that are still licking their wounds down there. Maybe. I don't know. Liam, what do you think, man?
Well, like you said, I think the absence of some of the ARC players was definitely significant. You had, I believe it was Sean Davies is probably the biggest name out of all those that they were actually missing. However, it wasn't so much there might be a greater leadership aspect that they were missing with Davies being gone. However,
he is the captain.
He is the captain. He is the captain. But what I also saw, I was editing this game for Fitzy just earlier today, actually. 11 knock-ons by Glendale, by my count. I've said on this program.
I think I need to look at the stats in more depth. They had 7 in the first game against Seattle. So, But it's not just knock-ons. They had I didn't look.
It's being undisciplined in the breakdown. It's not being able to retain possession without gaining valuable meters. And also, there's been problems in the lineout. I believe I saw consciously at least 2 lineouts stolen by NOLA throughout the entire game. There may have even been more, but that's losing valuable possessions. That's ruining your tempo. They have great playmakers. That nobody's going to deny that about that team, especially when they got people like Mika. They have people like Hanko. Hanko was absent for the ARC. Sorry, but regardless, we still saw some of those issues when he was playing. So I don't know what's going on with this Glendale team. Like you said, it could be the missing players. It could just be the fact that other teams are wisening up to the system that Coach Williams is playing down there. Now, that's also not a knock against NOLA. I bet against NOLA 2 times in a row in the first 2 weeks and got proven wrong both those times. They're playing a much faster, much cleaner style of rugby than we saw last year. They're really, really looking like a complete team, probably even more so than some of the other top competitors. Obviously they made some good additions, but they also kept some of their core players from last year. I'm seeing a greater degree of chemistry every week by these guys, and I don't think it's going to necessarily just stop. I think NOLA, at this point, we have to consider them some of the top competitors in this league rather than our initial assumptions that Toronto and Rooney were just going to stroll right into the competition and be dominant.
So one of the things I don't think teams are necessarily figuring what Glendale is doing out. I think, well, for the most part, if you look at the way NOLA plays, they play very similar, except I would say that they play more three-dimensional than Glendale has. Glendale's changed their attack, and they made it more wide open, allowing more creativity on the pitch from, their fly half and their scrum half to just get things done, put the ball down. But the difference from last year, they played a much more rigid system, but the real difference in where they are right now, I don't think if they cleaned up their handling errors the way this game went, that they would have won like I did last week. But if they clean that up, they will be right where we thought they were going to be because they can play wide open and fast. But let's get to NOLA because, whoa. Well, let's see. JP Eloff, 3 minutes in, penalty. Then you got a try by Taylor Howden at 9 minutes in. William Munro, the tennis player from good old Australia, he responds for Glendale pretty early at 15 minutes with the try, bringing it close. And then, they just sort of trade possessions pretty fast. But at no point did NOLA ever really get threatened in this game because they were always able to respond to whatever Glendale had. They played an up-tempo. If you look at one of the stats to look at, and I was listening to Byron McGuigan last week on the Egg Chasers podcast, and he talked about what Gregor Townsend is drilling into the Thistle, the Scottish side, and fast ruck speed. If you look at their ruck speed in New Orleans, man, they're playing fast ball. Like they are dictating the tempo. They're playing wide. They're playing again, keeping the same multiple attack that they had last year. And one of the things that we saw that they didn't have last year is health. They are healthy and they are deep. So it's going to be, and they're getting deeper. Just to let you know, they're about to get deeper. But think about this. They lose their top lineout threat in Cam Dolan to Eagles camp. Who comes in? John Sullivan, Billy Stewart are there. Kane Thompson fills in the back as the number 8, moving from the back second row, and does a really good job there. But Striffler, he just continues to get after it, and then you have guys like Tristan Bluette, who played wing, who played center last week, who's basically a back row that somehow is a center. I don't know. But the Gold Rain, that attack is just getting it done. They're the leading attack in the league this year so far after 2 games, and they are atop the standings healthily compared to San Diego and Seattle. Like I said, you can sort of see what Glendale's trying to do with what they're attempting, but handling errors, chemistry, it's just really weird right now. Robbie Petzer, I thought, filled in pretty well for Will McGee. Carlo Denishin, he's a young kid that was in the Raptors Academy last year that we didn't see at all. He didn't make the senior side, but for his first start on this kind of a stage, he filled in pretty well for Sean, the missing captain, Sean Davies. I think the surprise for the Glendale was William Munro, the tennis player. I'm just going to call him the tennis player now that I know he was a high-level tennis player in Australia. But another guy who did a job for Glendale is Nick Johnson. Who thought Nick Johnson, who apparently has the same barber as Alex Tucci. Please, everyone, go look at their hairstyles. They're the exact same. He put in 70 minutes off the bench in place for an injured Harley Davidson. But again, looking at where the gold is, you have Tim Maupin out injured. Cam Dolan's with the Eagles. Eric Howard is their captain. He's up down. Well, I guess down with they're in Brazil now, but it was down with Le Rouge, Canada, in Uruguay, and Kyle Bailey are also with Team Canada in Uruguay. But guess what? Not a damn problem. But the guy who was selected Player of the Week, the old warhorse himself, Taylor Howden, playing. He just does what he does, playing outside center, getting it done. 2 tries, excellent ball movement. I don't know how he found himself in the positions he was in, and he just got it done.
Silver Fox. Gotta love that Taylor Howden.
It is fantastic to see him playing. It absolutely is. So the third match of the weekend, which, by the way, real quick, before we move on to Legion versus Seattle, have we decided, are we talking weeks or we're calling them weeks, right? I mean,
we're calling them.
I'd rather them call them weeks, yeah.
Okay.
Tournaments
rather than
rounds. So tournaments have rounds. This is not a tournament. This is a league season. So we have weeks in America. So week 2.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure here. Okay, so week 2 wrapped up with, well, I guess it was a game. I don't know. It looked, what Aaron, you described it as a freaking hurricane.
So people were complaining about the ball, but if you look at the pic, I mean, I think the television coverage showed you how bad it was. But if you look at the pictures and you like whether it was from San Diego Sports Domination or San Diego's internal photos, it was horrible. Like if you look at that and then you go onto radar and you look at that system, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to snow because everything was like pink and white, but it obviously rained.
But snow in San Diego is ridiculous.
Yeah, basically what happened is Seattle packed up all the rain that they get throughout the year, brought it to San Diego with them, and just poured it on the field.
And here's the problem. Here's the problem with, like, it doesn't give them an advantage because Seattle plays on turf.
So. And this was grass. Mm-hmm. Grass and a lot of mud. I think more than a few people had ears full of dirt that day. So,
and
obviously
frozen fingers is a big underrated factor when you're playing in a rain game. Is sometimes, especially if you're in the back row and you haven't had a lot of action in terms of using, your appendages.
So people are like, "Oh, was it cold in San Diego?" I was like, "Yeah, it's 58 and
it's California cold."
It's I mean, cold in San Diego is like 65 and sunny, but I think it rained like 5 inches just during the game.
Mm-hmm.
So San Diego came out on top, 17-13 over Seattle. So that puts both teams at 1-1 on the season. So yeah, Aaron, take us away. What did you see on the field what you could see?
What I could see, lots of water. Hurricane conditions. Need to put the photo up that I think of the scrum in the rain as our cover photo on Twitter because, man, that was good stuff. USD is lucky to have a hybrid pitch because if it wasn't hybrid, that thing would be unplayable for this week's game. The Legion pretty much dictated the tempo with their physical carries, a bit like the Raptors. They attempted to play a wide up tempo attack. The rain kind of stopped that, but they also did some powerful carrying up the middle. And unlike the Raptors, they broke the gain line with some hard meters with carries by Patty Ryan and Kenny Nazikek. Hello, Tai Enosa. Where have you been? Welcome back from the rugby wilderness. Honestly, so Joe Pietersen goes out early in the second half, and I think without Tai Enosa on this team, he's a 9-10 hybrid guy. Isn't a kicker, but they have a kicker who plays 9. I don't think they win this game because what he was able to do, with his carries, with his distribution, it really was it helped get them things done. But here's the thing. So Let's talk about scrummaging. I think Paddy Ryan, the Wallaby, the Australian, is the top tight head prop in the league. Whether it's in the open field, he can carry the ball and get you meters, but man, he manhandled all of Khalifi and Kellen Gordon. They couldn't get him. His core strength and posterior chain is just there. They were popping out and trying to bore on him, and it just wasn't happening. And when he took over as captain, he was like, Scotty, you better call penalty on this. All of Khalifi was lucky to not get a yellow, especially when Phil Mack had already been sent off with the yellow. Nate Sylvia continues to show that he's drastically improved. He was up against Tim Metcher, and, it was pretty even on the loose head, tie head prop side for San Diego and Seattle. But here's a question. So I know if Mack gets called up to Canada, they have JP. But what happens if Brock Stoller gets called up? Because right now SEMA isn't healthy. Do they have another goal kicker? I mean, they've got Scott Dean, but didn't really see much of him.
Well, the question is always, do they have a viable replacement? Because there's always pulling people, like out of squad, local squads and stuff like that. I've seen it done down here in Houston. But no, with SEMA's health being what it is, I can't think of off the top of my head somebody who might be a viable replacement. Now, not to say that there isn't a replacement, especially in development. There very, very well could be, just not a rugby household name.
So what do you think of this thing?
Oh, well, if you want my opinion, I think this was a game by San Diego that I almost wanted to see them run away with, especially considering that in the first half it just seemed like they were playing a little bit more complete. But like you said, I think the rain. Oh, by the way, did you guys know it was raining during this match? I don't know if we mentioned that. But
what the hell are you talking about, man?
Not gonna lie, I think I saw Wilson floating by, freaking with Tom Hanks trying to follow him at some point during the half. I don't know. It was really blurry.
To illustrate how wet it was, did you see how much water jumped up from the air during Mikey Teo's diving try? That he just then slid into the wall.
No, I didn't consciously take note of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a whole lot. But basically,
I was trying to put this up a minute ago. Here, I'll show you the photo I found from this is from Seattle's Twitter feed. So, hold it up here.
It's
that's not very clear, but suffice it to say.
We don't have any sponsors yet, so we can't exactly just bring up any graphics for you guys to show. So we got to, be innovative. But
here's the thing, Liam. So their first game last year, Seattle got 3 penalty tries on San Diego. This time, San Diego got a penalty try.
Mm-hmm. You know what? It might just kind of speak to the fact that San Diego. Kind of like in the way that NOLA is, they're becoming a more complete team, having played another full season together. Whereas Seattle, definitely returned a lot of great players, but they're definitely a team in transition, especially coming off that coaching snafu for the second season in a row. There might be. Who knows? There might be some disconnect there. But like you said, I thought San Diego did a really good job of compensating with the rain. Their line speed was a little bit inhibited, by the slickness of the ball, but they were able to counter that by just running up the middle and making sure that they controlled the possession. Seattle, you would think, with some of the players that they have, unfortunately, Billy got injured, but other people like that might have been able to run the same kind of game plan. But this is kind of the Seattle team that people were hoping to see last year that was very versatile in both the inside and the outside. And I think they did a really good job at coming against Seattle, being the defending champions, and making sure that they were able to defend their home pitch. Honestly, as for some of the people saying online that the rain, is the reason that Seattle may have lost or was a big factor. Last time I checked, it barely rains in San Diego. It rains a lot in Seattle. The slickness of the pitch notwithstanding. But like I said, you got to find ways to kind of counter that.
I think the rain is what stopped San Diego from beating the brakes off of Seattle. That's my opinion. There's some bad. You want to see some bad blood? Seattle, Glendale, Seattle, San Diego. Like they're getting after it. Injury update on this game. Billy was put in an air cast. He has a lower extremity injury. I'm told that he's out indefinitely, and he may be back towards the last third of the season, but don't really know about confirmation of that yet. So,
which really sucks because Billy's becoming a much more marketable name, as rugby starts to grow, especially up in that area where Seattle's been so successful at reaching out to the community. Don't get me wrong, the hair is a big part of it, but the way that he just plays on the field and the fact that he always has a smile on his face off of it, it's really unfortunate that we're going to be missing seeing that hairdo of Billy on the field for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and then Joe Pietersen for San Diego is in concussion protocol, and he's out for at least the next 2 games. So I was doing some math, and I was trying to figure this out. So Nick Boyer, he was their goal kicker when Pietersen left the field. He got a conversion and then was 1 of 2 for penalties. So Owdsley is with the Eagles. Kearns can kick, but and so that gives you only 1 kicking option if Nick Boyer gets called into the Eagles. But the question is, who's the other 9? Because Enosa is a 9-10. I don't know. I need to look at that roster again. But yeah, so. They're a little in the backs right now. Hopefully, if Nick gets called up to the Eagles, Dylan Owdsley comes back. Also, yes, Nate Augsburger plays 9 very effectively, so you got him, but he's not a goal kicker. I'm not really worried about the scrum halving. I'm worried about the goal kicking. So, so that's San Diego. I think we'll get into that preview a little later. But Corey, before we go over the Chile game, let's talk about Santiago Arata
getting the frickin' red card. Oh my god! Hold on. So can I please explain this from my point of view? So we're in Dallas on Saturday, right? And like I said, there was a number of SaberCat players playing on the West Houston Lions during the bye week, including Joe Kelly, Kieran Farmer, Matt Alameda, and a few other academy players. And next thing you know, people just start whispering, Santiago got a red card. Santiago got a red card. And everybody's like, oh my God, Santiago got a red card. Could he potentially get suspended for the upcoming, MLR game or whenever he's slated to return? But then when it really started to get, crazy is that people started looking at the footage. There's a group chat of all the SaberCat players on WhatsApp. And next thing you know, everybody's just showing their phones to one another, looking at the hit. And it's a straight up Hardy Boys flying DDT type shit. And everybody who knows Santi, he's a really, really nice kid. He's a really small dude. So the fact that he got a dangerous tackle was confusing the hell out of everybody until we saw the footage. And yeah, so that was an interesting night at the social in Dallas. And, hopefully Santi, comes out okay from any consequences. Like I said, he's a great dude. Doesn't really deserve to get punished all that hard. But hey, it's rugby.
Yeah. So,
and just for clarity's sake, that was Uruguay's match against Canada that occurred in.
So Uruguay won this match 20-17. Santiago Arata takes this red card at 15 minutes. So they are playing a man for 65 minutes. And they just lose it. If Santiago doesn't take a red, they win by 20 points.
Whew. It's a bold assumption there, boy. You got the britches to back that up.
Well, I mean, they won. So Los Teros won by 3 points, a man down. If they have a Rada, their first choice 9 on the pitch, yeah, they win by 20 points. I mean, look at how they played last year. So to think about it, but on to Chile.
And real quick, while we're talking about other scores, so yeah, Uruguay down Canada 20-17, and Argentina 15s, just to mention them as well in the ARC, took care of Brazil 54-3. So there's a couple pretty lopsided games for sure, including U.S. versus Chile. Yeah, we took care of that one. It was 71-8 was the final score. I guess, all of our concerns about the traveling and the altitude and all that good stuff really was for naught. They were just fine. Everything was good.
It was tongue-in-cheek. We were just looking for stuff to talk about. Elevation might be a factor.
Yeah, exactly. So I take the score as really proof of American generosity. We let them have 8 points. We didn't have to, but thought maybe it'd let them feel good about something about themselves a little.
There's a lot of political jokes I can make off that, but I'm just gonna let it go.
So Liam, what was your thoughts right off the bat on this one?
So I was only able to really watch some highlights of this game. However, it's definitely not surprising. All of our players have a significantly greater options in terms of getting minutes, both professionally and amateurly. Our training, not to put down Chile's training staff, but I think ours is definitely on a few levels above. It's all about minutes, and the fact of the matter is that Chile's players just don't have that on-pitch experience compared to some of the U.S. players. But like Corey said, it's great that they didn't get shut out. It shows a degree of resiliency in them that you definitely want to see in rugby. But yeah, overall, pretty much what we expected in terms of the outcome.
Wow, that was a lot nicer than what I remember saying, Liam. Thank you. Do you want to be my editor?
So, Los Condores. Pablo Lemoine is, he's Chile's 4th coach in 4 years. So they've had 4 different coaches for every ARC.
It's like the Cleveland Browns of international rugby.
So 11 tries in this game for us. Aj McGinty with a hat trick. It's all about as good a training run as we could get. Honestly, I don't think we scrummed that well. I'm not sure if we intended. Actually, I think we intended to scrum this way to just not kill ourselves. But also, I don't know if running over their scrum every time they put the ball in would actually help us learn it all, because we could have done that. You see how we want to play, put the ball on the ground and attack, running rugby, powerful carry, and play 3-dimensional rugby. Good to see, like I said, good to see Aj back on form and ready for the premiership season. Will McGee at fullback. During the autumn, he really didn't look like he was settled back there. But the intent in this game, he knew what he was doing at 15. It gives you, when you want to play the second 5/8 concept, instead of having a second 5/8 at 12, which, as we've seen, doesn't always work and hasn't worked for us in the past when we've done that. You have a fly half playing at fullback, whether it's Will Hooley or Will McGee. You're good to go. And guess what? For 12, Paul Asike, he can distribute and he can still put the ball down with his foot as well.
Darn Skippy.
Okay. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll in just a little bit we'll kind of talk about what we got coming up for the U.S. next week. But for right now, I thought this might be a good opportunity for us to kind of go through and see how we did on our predictions, which, as we mentioned at the top, was not well. So, do you guys want to tell me your predictions, or you want me just to read them off? How do you want to run this?
Just read those off, and then we'll get into the new.
We'll make some comments.
So, last week, we had Utah beating Austin 17-9. Aaron, you said Austin by 5. Liam said Utah by 5, and I said Austin by 3. So, good work, Liam. Okay, Glendale at NOLA. We had NOLA winning 40-31. Aaron, you're the one that picked NOLA on that one by 2. Liam and I both had Glendale. Liam by 7, me by 10. Seattle at San Diego. San Diego won 17-13. We all picked Seattle for that one. So I think we just kind of move on. And then the last one was USA versus Chile. And we all had USA, so good on us on that. Aaron, you were the closest, saying they'd win by 30. Still a little ways off, though. Liam and I were both. Liam had 21. I said 20. So that's where we're at. So with the wins this weekend, wins and losses in MLR, where's that put us in the standings, Aaron?
So New Orleans is clearing away at the top with 10 total points on the table. They have 2 wins. San Diego moves to being tied with their victory over Seattle. Both are 1-1, and they both have 5 bonus points total. And then Utah moves to 4th, but really tied for 4th with New York and Houston with 4 bonus points. All 3 teams have played 1 game and have 1 victory, and the other teams were on a bye. Toronto is at 7th with 2 bonus points, so basically tied with Glendale. But however, they've only played 1 game, so they are half game up on Glendale. And then Austin is bottom of the table with 1 bonus point and 2 losses.
Rough stuff, but looking pretty good for NOLA. Holy cow! I that makes me happy. I don't know. It just NOLA Gold. Way to go, guys.
I mean, I talk about NOLA being good, and apparently I'm wrong.
I thought you're always wrong, Aaron.
I thought we picked him to come in last.
Don't you know it's all your fault?
Apparently.
Okay, so this week coming up, off the top, we will have Toronto at Austin. That's available Friday night on Facebook Watch. I'm going to go ahead and say Austin by 3 on this one. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think they're going to win. Liam?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go.
Think?
Yeah, I should just go ahead and tell you guys I don't have the script in front of me because I'm on my phone, so you have to kind of remind me when it's my.
You picked.
Sorry.
Toronto minus 12. So.
Yep. So despite the fact that Toronto is missing a bunch of people to the ARC, something about Austin just tells me that their squad might be in trouble schematically. So yeah, I'm gonna take the big risk on this one. I'm gonna say double-digit victory for Toronto.
I wouldn't be surprised if I get this wrong, but I'm going Toronto minus 5, and I just think their system is intact. They played better. They played pretty well against NOLA. I think NOLA sort of surprised us in week 1, but not in week 2. And even with some guys gone this week, well, I guess most of their guys gone this week, I still think that they've got a shot to take this one away from Austin because they just weren't there this last week against Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And that game is on at 8 p.m. Eastern, by the way.
Saturday. That means I'll be home in time from grad school to scout players.
Nice. Okay, Saturday, we have got Houston at San Diego, and this is the CBS Sports Network Game of the Week. That is at 10 p.m. Saturday night. Aaron, what do you think on this one?
Oh, I'm going hardcore San Diego. Even with Joe Pietersen out, I think Tai Enosa is going to be more than enough at 10. They're going to keep Nick Boyer this week. And, they've like we've just discussed, they actually have a few more goal kickers on their 23 from last week. Connor Kearns and Kyle Rogers on the bench. So they've got weapons. They're going to out-scrum Houston. I know Liam's going to try and tell me something, but it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, it is going to happen. Houston's front row is of Pat O'Toole, of Jamie Deaver, and of Charlie Connolly. Assuming that Charlie Connolly is going to be healthy enough to go. If not, Matt Almeida is more than capable of stepping in at either prop position. Overall, it's just a great front row, and San Diego isn't going to be able to match. Now, Houston defensively has been preparing for this game. They've had a whole week to go over film. I edited all the film. I've seen how much they've been studying. Neil Kelly has been taking a much more active role in terms of preparing the defense based on that film study. He's tailoring practices, much more intricately to how to respond to a particular opponent. And the fact is that Houston has some great defensive pieces that sometimes last year they didn't always gel. I think offensively, San Diego leaves a whole lot of gaps because they like to spread it wide in order to contain their opponents out wide. I think Houston's going to be able to attack those gaps in the middle. They have some great, really versatile players in the scrum who can handle the ball in hand. We've seen people like Beaucamp. We've seen people like Matt Trouville, and especially then in the back row, you have Malachi Esdale. Hopefully Joshua Vithi and Osea Kalinisau are going to be healthy. They're going to be huge game breakers. I just don't see San Diego after 2 straight weeks of games going against Houston, who just had a week off to prepare, being able to overcome. So yeah, I'm going to go Houston by 3 on this one.
Fair enough. And I'm going to go ahead and back San Diego just because I think that they've got something working for them. I really do. And Houston, I'm never sure about. I think it depends on which Houston team shows up that week. So I'm putting San Diego by 7 at home. And then on Sunday, so we got 3 days of games here. So we got Sunday is Seattle at NOLA. It should be a fun game. That is Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. So, Liam, you got your numbers for the NOLA game?
Yeah, and I believe I went NOLA by 2. Darn right, I remembered it. I'm done betting against NOLA. I think I've learned my lesson. However, out of all the games that we're predicting this week, I think this is the one that I could possibly be wrong on. But I'm going to give Osborne's crew the benefit of the doubt, and like I said, NOLA -2.
I learned my lesson last year by betting against Seattle. So even though I did this week and was wrong, I'm going to go ahead and not bet against them again and say say Seattle by 10 on Sunday.
Ooh,
that's cute. Gold will reign.
Sassy.
Gold reign. It's gonna happen. I'm going NOLA -8 at home. They're just gonna dictate the tempo very early on. It's gonna be a high scoring game. The issue for Seattle though is their attack. Will Richie Walker have had the time to install some more concepts to get them more wide open when they go down to NOLA? Weather again is going to play as a factor for this team. They went into a storm down in San Diego. For NOLA, it's just going to be hot for them because they got home. The Seawolves landed, and there was a foot of snow on the ground in Seattle. So it's cold right now in the Pacific Northwest, courtesy of polar vortex, courtesy of Mother Winter, even though Puxatawny Phil came out and saw his shadow. So, winter is ending early. There's going to be an early spring and all that. NOLA have the depth. If Kingsley has called anyone into camp, I wonder if Phil Mack and Brock Stoller are gone. And, hopefully they do need a back row back. And that would be Nakai Penny coming out of Canada camp and going back. That would be a fair trade, right? Brock Stoller and Phil Mack for Nakai Penny. I mean, it's not really fair.
I think Phil Mack as a leader is. That would be worth it to them.
It's not really fair, but they need a back row, and Kingsley needs a goal kicker because Theo Sauter did not get it done against Uruguay. Because if he makes one of his missed conversions and one of his missed penalties, he missed 2 conversions and he missed 2 penalties. They still win that game by 2. But so they're going to need the leadership of Phil Mack and Canada Kim. I don't think that he or Stoller have been called up, but we'll see. But still, Gold Rain. Let's go.
Sorry about that. So we will see what happens there. Sorry, I was just looking up the start time for the next game here. We also on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern is USA versus Argentina, and this one is being played in Argentina. So, Aaron, what you got on that one?
Oh, man. To go into that one, I'm going USA -5. It's a little close, but our first victory over them was just last year in the ARC. In the previous 2 editions, we scored draws against the Argentina 15. And, they put a thumping on Brazil. I mean, we're going to put a thumping on Brazil, but it just made me think a little bit. But if you look at the way that game went, we've got a better scrum than Brazil does, and Brazil ate them up. So that's all about backline and just winning tackles and what Argentina 15 was. Yes, I might be being conservative, but I could see us opening up and winning by 15 points. But I'm going USA -5 because, historically right now, 2 draws and a win by 7 is not much to hold on to.
Well, in the same respect that you said, Argentina has a lot going for it. But I think our edge in the scrum, especially with some of our playmakers, in the backfield, it all comes down to the fact that we've had more minutes played professionally by all of our options thanks to MLR, and so I think that's a big reason why our team's on the upswing. So I'm gonna go USA -10. I'm not sure if that's what I put on the script, but that's what I'm fucking guessing now.
Yeah, you were close. I think you had USA -7 earlier in the day. So, Hey, being more optimistic. There's nothing wrong with that.
Fuck right.
I'm not being optimistic. I'm going to go ahead and call it a draw. I guess that's neither being pessimistic nor optimistic. That's being very neutral. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a hard game, and I think, it'll come out even. We'll see what happens. Also, just a quick shout, and we don't have any predictions for this one, but there is a scrimmage on Saturday between the New England Free Jacks traveling to the Utah Warriors. And I do not think there's any streaming or anything associated with this one. This is just a scrimmage. They're going out there to get their boots wet. So, anybody have anything to add to that one?
I just don't like this whole for Free Jacks. Good for them. For Utah, I mean, it's a bye week, man. You're supposed to use bye weeks for bye week activities. You're supposed to win against bye team, and guess what? Now, bye team is the Free Jacks.
Yep. Well, obviously I'm a little bit biased in this one. However, we can't forget the fact that the Free Jacks really took it to Rooney, only losing by 3 points in the preseason. I think this could be a trap game for Utah. But I'm just going to go ahead and go with my hometown for the hell of it. I'm going to go with Boston -3.
If we even get a score.
Yeah, I was going to say, we may never know.
I'll text somebody on the team.
Bob Boberson, you are deploying to Utah for the scrimmage. Well, you live in Utah, but
go find out what's going on.
Harriman, Utah. You're going to Harriman. Thank you.
Take a camera.
Yeah, right.
Transactions. Do we got anybody moving and shaking this week?
Yes. So as I said, Scott Dean was picked up by Seattle, and he played last week in the number 23 jersey for the Seawolves. And then, well, I know where he's going, but you will find out. I thought it was today, but you'll find out tomorrow. But Tony Lamborn is coming. So pay attention.
What? It's happening.
Well,
it's really happening.
And And for me, the only transaction that I have is Kelly Kohlberg of the Dallas Reds is now an official part of the Houston SaberCats.
You put him on the pitch, man. What was that like? Like he was on the roster and he played. Done.
Yeah,
He's just done.
dude, Kelly's the man, yo. Fucking like straight up, like one of the first people to say hello to me every time like we're at practice. So yeah, I got a lot of love for Kelly, man. Plus the dude is such a hard worker, especially in practice. He puts his head down and he's asking questions of the coaches, and you see him just like dissecting information mentally. He definitely looks the part of a good old boy from Texas. A little bit on the mullet side, but yeah, no. Overall, I think it's a great signing by Houston. I think Kelly, he definitely has something special.
Well, he doesn't have as bad a mullet as Cecil.
Dude, Cecil owns it though. Like, no, straight up, man. Like he knows darn well what he looks like. if like I'll shout every now and again to Cecil. It's like, can you hear what Fitzy's saying with that party in the back, man? And he's all about it.
Okay, guys, I think it's time for my favorite segment of the week. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
We have got questions from Bob. That's right. Okay. He who walks slow is our first submitter, and he who walks slow would like to know, slowly, if the MLR put together a sevens team to compete in the HSBC Tour, who would you want to be on the team? Country of origin doesn't apply here.
So I can't, like I said, I don't have my script in front of me. However, I'm pretty sure that I went with Arata, Joshua Vithi, Malachi Esdale, Osea Kalinisau, Ryan Matias. Corey, you're going to have to remind me who my last two were on this.
Boyer and Pellegelin and
Pangilinan? Zach Pangilinan?
Yes, thank you.
I'll be sending him this link later on. But yeah, no, I definitely went with speed. But in terms of with Matias and Boyer, I think that the two of them in particular have a physical aspect, in terms of getting through tackles. Obviously, tackling Joshua Vithi is going to be a hard time for anybody, the way he keeps his feet moving in contact. Yeah. Aaron, what do you got?
So I've got I changed the pick. But I've got Phil Mack, Ryan Matias, Joshua Vithi, Osea Kalinisau, Johnny Moonlight, Jasa Varamalua, and Matt Turner.
Fair enough. And I got nothing to add to this one. I think you guys have these pretty down pat. So I'm just going to move on to a question from Bob B. Bobberson here, our namesake for this segment. What are your way too early predictions for coaches in the hot seat? Will there be any coaching changes after this season? Aaron?
I don't know. It depends. It really does. People talked about the hot seat in Houston. Justin Fitzpatrick went 1-7. Blah blah. People also talked about Nate Osborne last year. People also talked about Alan Yarday last year. AER is 0-2 this season. Houston is 1-0. NOLA is 2-0 and are atop the standings, and they're healthy. So I guess there's some warmish seats in Texas for now. But by warm I mean 33 degrees. So now if you want to ask
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit. So 1 degree above freezing. But it's a way too early prediction. But I think we'll have more of an idea, after the midpoint in the season.
Yeah, I'm not going to, as an MLR employee, I will not be commenting on this.
You're a team employee.
So
you don't need to be throwing shade at anyone.
No.
As an MLR employee, I'm also neutral, which is why I said it's 33 degrees because I don't freaking know. Like it's way too early. That's why you asked me for way too early predictions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my only thought on this one is, once again, I'm a complete outsider. So I want to state up front that my opinions are based on absolutely nothing, no facts, no inside knowledge. But after last season, and if things don't get better this season, I honest to goodness believe that Fitzy may be in trouble. And that's my worry, because I think he's probably one of the nicer guys in the sport. But I just don't know if he's going to stick around with the SaberCats for a third season if they don't start doing something down there. That's my 2 cents. I have no idea otherwise. But yeah, AAR, they got to do something down there. So I think Texas is kind of the rough spot right now. But we can always look at Utah too and see what they end up doing. So, I mean, the nice thing about Seattle is, they don't. You never know who's going to be the coach. So I guess. Don't really have to worry about that one.
Oh, wow.
This just in, everybody on Seattle appointed the head coach.
Coaching by committee. That'd go great.
It worked out.
There's definitely no ego in rugby, so yeah, everybody would be great.
Hey, it worked out last season. Chairman of the committee was Phil Mack, and they won a championship, I guess. It worked out. Not so sure it'll work out this year. But good luck to Richie Walker for taking the helm of Seattle Seawolves.
Yeah. All right. Over on Twitter, Augie Rugger 2010 wants to know, or Aggie Rugger, sorry.
Augie.
I think every person in Texas just had a stroke listening to you say that.
Augie.
Well, fortunately, we don't have anyone in Texas. Shit. Aggie Rugger 2010. Will Austin's outreach at South by Southwest SEO allow them to expand marketing reach and improve their fan activation? So I got to admit that I kind of missed this story altogether. I guess I did see one headline on it, but South by Southwest, for those of you not informed, is a big kind of arts, culture, music, technology festival held every spring in Austin. And so I guess the team is getting involved over there. I don't know. Can anybody fill me in on this one?
So I asked about this. So Austin Elite, they're bringing in brand ambassadors from across the city and the region. This guy, the CEO of South by Southwest, is just the first one. And South by Southwest is, I feel like the arts and the culture aspect has really died down compared to the technology portion of it, because it really, Austin City Limits is a big music festival, but South by Southwest also used to have a big music portion to this, but the technology portion of the stool, the 3 legs or the tripod, has really taken over of late. So when it comes to getting the word out, he's a good guy to get the word out. Now, hopefully that means some team involvement at South by Southwest for engagement of new fans.
Yeah, well, Austin's always one of those places where new things are encouraged to be tried. So, honestly, American rugby is a really big experimental field in terms of trying to reach new markets and new audiences. So I'm all for this. All for anybody who's thinking creatively.
All right. Tobar the Gypsy asks,
I wonder who this is.
Who's that guy?
And this actually came off an email thread, not necessarily off Reddit. So, in all honesty, Tobar wants to know, is there any interest in having a premiership club play in the U.S. again? A few years ago when it was Saracens and
Newcastle.
Saracens and somebody?
Newcastle at Talent Energy, and then Saracens, London Irish at Red Bull Arena.
Yeah.
The interest is never going to die down because the American rugby market is only going to be getting bigger. So I'm sure, conversations are continuing in some sense, from France to Ireland to England to every other place that has a professional league.
So I'm ready for it, just not in the fall, guys. We saw the experiments. Your event promoter told you what was going to happen, and you just the cultural phenomenon that is football just takes a hold of this country, as we saw yesterday for the Super Bowl. There was like 100 million Americans watching just the Super Bowl, so there is that. But let's talk about a doubleheader. A Rugby United New York versus DC game as the opener, and then Bath Rugby. You got to get two recognizable names. So like Bath versus
Gloucester or something. Yeah.
Bath Gloucester versus Saracens. Bath Gloucester versus Wasp. You got to get the big clubs because the big clubs have supporters out here. Newcastle? Maybe. I don't know.
Falcons.
Yeah, it's just get it done. They were supposed to have a fixture in the spring this year after the fall 2017 one didn't work out. But I guess for some reason, this is all conjecture. This is based on stuff I've read in the news back in the fall and also on Reddit, that the home team didn't want to give up a spring home fixture, even though I know they get paid extra for this. So just make it happen. Let's grow the game.
We want it.
Excellent. All right. A couple more here, then we'll let everybody go home. Rugger_11. This is a long one, so bear with me.
Oh, boy.
Could New England Patriots, Nate Ebner, be a viable MLR owner in Columbus, considering the new downtown MLS stadium that will be built, success of the Ohio Aviators Pro Rugby Club achieved during their short existence, and his local popularity within Columbus rugby? Okay. So Ebner is an NFL player who cut his teeth on rugby back in the day and appeared on the USA Olympics 7 squad in 2016. 16. So with that said, who wants to take this one? This is a lot.
So right now, Nate Ebner is one of Belichick's most trusted special teams players, probably next to Matthew Slater. And as long as he's staying healthy, I don't see the Patriots trying to let him go anytime soon. As long as he's still, a viable player, especially in the blocking scheme, with during the punt game. We saw in the Super Bowl, just how important that was with the Rams being so great, at rushing the punter. Now, that being said, just because somebody is rich doesn't mean they're going to be a good owner, or that they're, or just because they're making NFL money doesn't mean they just want to start writing checks to, whatever, tickles their fancy. Being an MLR owner is just as time consuming as it can be to be an NFL owner. And you don't exactly see former players cutting checks to be NFL owners, every day. Or, that's in the billions of dollars. But still, it's not something that I think somebody can just open up their checkbook and automatically be good at. Would it be cool if he was like one of the core investors? That's something that's probably a more feasible and realistic in terms of where his career would probably go after the Patriots or while he's still on the Patriots. But I wouldn't be expecting Nate Ebner to take a active role, as a face of a franchise in any capacity.
Could Nate Ebner be part of an ownership group for an Ohio team? Sure. He's got some coin. He also says, this is the weird part, I'm pretty sure he's getting an extension from New England because Matt Slater has gotten an extension. So when is he going to give rugby a try? Because guess what? He's on $2.5 million a year right now with his current contract. It was a 2-year deal, but it extends through the 2019 season. So he's not a free agent until right before, I think it's February 10th or something, 2020. And so I'm pretty sure they're going to re-sign him.
Yeah, it can't be overlooked. The McCourty twins are also contemplating retirement right now, and so Belichick is somebody who really likes to have depth safety, and Ebner technically being a safety, only adds to that.
So I mean, Nate can be an owner. Yep, why not? He's one of the most recognizable names in American rugby. The interesting whole part of that is, I think that's like in response to a question, I guess, him stating that when he's done with football, he will play rugby. But I think for what he does, he's got plenty of time on the football field left. And no rugby club in the world could pay him what he's making right now. Just saying.
Yeah. Go for the big bucks, baby.
So he's not going to get scalped anytime soon to come play in MLR, is what you're saying?
No. He still has a job to do up there, up here.
Not going to moonlight on the Free Jacks. Last question of the night. Gosh, this sounds familiar, but we'll go ahead and ask it. USA Rugby fan wants to know, can I now purchase NOLA playoff tickets, or is it still too early? To which I would say, you do you, man. Hey, whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you happy.
Honestly, I mean, do it. Just do it. Like as long as you're not getting like a NOLA, 2019 MLR champions tattoo, But yeah, man, you do.
Hey, they are the top of the table team. If you can find a place where they sell NOLA Gold playoff tickets, I'm sure Tim Falcon and Ryan Fitzgerald will take your money.
You know what? I'll put this out there. If anybody here has the balls to get a NOLA MLR champions tattoo for 2019, we'll pin you to the top of Reddit all season, dude. We'll keep it up there. You guys cool with that?
Yeah.
We have to verify this somehow, so it's not just Photoshop, though.
Yeah. Pixar didn't happen.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good. I think I'll ask you guys if you have any final thoughts, then I'll read some legal stuff and we'll get going.
What was it? Where is that BS sort of thing I know we're supposed to talk about? Long Island Rugby Football Club is hosting a Rugby United New York Combine. What do you got? Guess what? High school players, because they're scouting players for the academy. College players, because they're scouting players for the academy. And club players, because they're scouting players to bring in to the senior side. So if you want to make Rugby United or get a futures contract or whatever, Long Island Rugby Football Club is hosting the Combine this Sunday, the 10th. Check them out.
I'm still hungover from the Super Bowl last night, so I'm feeling great. Go Patriots.
And I guess about all I've got to say on the way out is screw the Patriots. You guys suck. I mean, you don't suck because you win all the time, but I hate you. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. On our way out, please note that all opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of the hosts and the guests and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or practices of Major League Rugby teams or the league. Aaron Castro is employed by Major League Rugby. Liam Madigan-Freed is employed by the West Houston Lions and the Houston SaberCats. Be sure to tune in next week. We will be back here live on YouTube Monday night and available for download Wednesday morning as always. If you like what we do, please subscribe to us on YouTube and on iTunes or whatever podcast provider you use. It helps folks find us and helps us spread the good news of Major League Rugby. And be sure to share your own news, views, and abuse with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or via email at earfulofdirt@gmail.com. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's been a pleasure. We will see you next week, and until then, go out and watch some rugby.